In part 1 of origami tutorials, we're going to cover the basics and working with masks. First, we need to open Origami, and when you first open it, you'll see this interface. There are two modes to Origami, Basic and Advanced. I'm going to cover Advanced later. In Basic mode, you can choose the mesh type, triangulation, Voronoi, triangles, or squares, the number of points inside your form, what you're going to make, and how you're going to animate it. So let's see how it works. Here I have a photograph of an Atlantic puffin, and I'll add it to a new composition. For example, I'll choose Voronoi as the mesh type, and I'll choose 20 points. I'll choose masks, which will make copies of layers with a mask, which I'm going to explain later. Then I'll press Mesh and Animate. So Basic mode is made for one-click animation. It's very useful for transitions, like this one. You can control this animation with the control layer. Here we have the delay control, and the numbers in frames, it's set to 3 right now. If we increase this, the animation will take a longer amount of time. So I'll play this back, and you can see the difference in how it unfolds. Let's set that back to 4. We can also add keyframes to our rotation control. So here I'll make a new keyframe and set it to -5. This is going to add a little bit of bounce to the animation. Let's try and preview the whole animation. Now let's take a look at Advanced mode, which shows you the real origami. It's a 2-step process. For the first step, you create the mesh, and for the second step, you animate the mesh. Let's focus on creating the mesh. Just like in the Basic mode, you choose your mesh type here. I'm going to choose squares, 16 squares for this picture. Like the Basic mode, you can choose to make masks or shapes, but we also have this checkbox, Fragments to Layers. With this checked off, Origami will create one layer with all the masks. This is useful to preview what the mesh will look like, but it's not useful for animation at all. So as you can see, here's how the masks are breaking up the picture here. Let's check Fragments to Layers back on and create the mesh. In Advanced mode, you can select the layer you want to start your animation from. So let's select this layer here, and let's take a closer look at these options. In Advanced mode, you can also set direction. In means that the layers are going to start appearing from the selected layer. Out means they're going to start appearing from outward and work their way into the selected layer. I'll cover animation a little bit later. Under Effects, you select which parameters you want to animate. The basic ones are Rotate X and Opacity. Let's leave it this way. Hit Animate. And you can see all the layers disappear in the direction of the layer that we have selected. You can also select 2 or more layers, so let's select these 2. I'll click Animate, and you can see that the animation has recalculated. And let's just do this one more time. I'll select this layer and press Animate, and there it is. You can also easily update the animation. When you select each new layer and press Animate, Origami recalculates all the dependencies. It takes a little bit of time, and with more layers it can take a little more time. If you just select new properties, like scale, then hit Update, it will recalculate instantly. It will use the previous structure, but just rewrite the control layer and the expressions for the layers. So now the transition uses scale, and we can just as easily check on position, press Update, and it updates instantly. I'm also going to show you how to make a very cool disappearing effect. Let's select all of these layers, and copy them, and pre-compose, then paste, then pre-compose again. Let's call this composition Out, and let's call this one in. We already have an out transition, so let's just move this towards the end. And let's go into the in composition. Next, select two layers, this one and this one. And we want to redo this animation as an in animation. We're going to leave it set on scale, and we'll press animate. Now we have our layers appearing in this composition. And disappearing out in this composition. Next, I'm going to show you how to use custom masks for origami. Let's start over by removing these layers, and add this photograph one more time. Let's create a mask around this puffin. For now, origami only supports polygonal masks, meaning that these Bezier handles are not supported, so please don't create them. It would not work as expected, so please just continue with the polygonal mask. Alright, that looks good. So when you go to step 1 to create the mesh, you can select any mesh here. I'll choose Voronoi mesh here. And then press create. And Origami will use the original mask as a constraint polygon for the new layers. And you can easily animate with this setup as well. And there you have it. In part 2, I'll show you how to use origami with shape layers and some more advanced animation techniques.